All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to halftime. Glad you're here. I feel like it's been like a whole week since we saw each other. This is awesome. Hey, how many of you went to High Def with us? We have any High Def fans in the room? All right. So just so you know, we actually baptized some friends this weekend. Gracie here in the front row, she's one of the people we baptized this weekend. You can cheer for Gracie. And if you're interested in being baptized or in growing in your faith, I want to encourage you to talk to your small group leader this weekend. We had some discipleship meetings this last week. We had a baptism meeting that some of you were part of before we had halftime tonight. But I want to encourage you, be part of talking about someone growing in your faith. Encourage you, come on the weekends, get into a small group. We have great small groups. Well, I'm going to jump in. I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you before, but if you ever had somebody that no matter how hard you tried, that for whatever reason, they just didn't seem to treat you fairly. You ever had that happen before? Yeah. I totally had that. For me, it was in 8th grade, and it was Austin Walker. So I had to transfer to a new school, and I'm sitting on the edge. I like to sit on the outside aisles in my classrooms. Like, we could pick where we sat. I'm not a sit in the middle guy. I'm like a sit on the outside aisles guy. That's where I like to sit. So I'm sitting on the outside. And Austin would find out where my classes were. He would stand in the doorway and look at me and just go, jerk, and walk away. It didn't matter where I was. He found me. It's like this dude had a Colby radar. It was creepy. I'd be sitting there minding my own business, sitting on my outside aisle seat. Never want to sit too close to the front or too close to the back. Like to sit in the middle, outside rows. That's how I rolled. And so I'm like outside row, 2-3 seats back. I'm sitting there. Austin walks by, jerk, and walks away really quickly. And like every once in a while, I'd have a teacher that would walk by, and the teacher would hear, but then he was like magic. He was like gone, right? It was like, it was crazy. And so finally, I just walked up to him. I'm like, dude, what's your problem? And he gave me that classic stupid dude answer. You're my problem. And I'm like, dude, what did I do to you? He's like, nothing. It's like this guy's read the book of stupid guy answers, okay? And so I'm like, well, if I haven't done anything, what's wrong? He's like, you answer questions in class. And I'm like, whoa, wait here a minute. You and I are in the same classes together. When the teacher asks a question, you can answer the same way I can. Why don't you answer? And then you give another great guy answer. Shut up, jerk. And he walks away. And so this repeats. And I just can't win with this guy. And I'll tell you, Austin Walker in 8th grade taught me a lesson that I've carried with me throughout the rest of my life. Do you want to know what that lesson is? Life is not fair. I wish it were. I wish that girls, you woke up every morning and your makeup just looked perfect and great. Dudes, I wish that you hit it out of the park every time you were at bat, or every time you stepped onto a football field, you nailed every tackle, every pass, every catch. I wish that when you were in soccer, that your dribbling was flawless, your defense perfect, your passes complete. I wish that in music you never hit a wrong note, that in dance you never missed a step. I wish that were true. I wish you never had to worry about what a pimple was. If you're in 6th grade, you'll find out. I wish that you had a perfect life. I wish that you never woke up in the morning and wanted to immediately go back to bed, which that's like Monday morning for me. Preach. Now, I wish that were the case, but it's not. We live in an imperfect world where we need to remember that life is not what? Fair. Right. Which, if life is not fair and we blow it, that means that we need this F word in our life. Not that one, and you can't say it in church, so don't say it. Forgiveness. We need forgiveness in our lives. Did you know that? Now, forgiveness is really hard. Forgiveness is something that we like to get a lot of, but if we're really honest, it's kind of hard to give at times. Especially when it's someone that we don't think deserves it, doesn't ask for it, and doesn't seem to even care about it, right? We all like to get forgiveness, but we can struggle to give forgiveness. So one of the things that I do, because I am a follower of Jesus, I care most about his words in my life, which is why we talk about the Bible in church. Jesus was perfect. He is the Son of God. He walked the earth and never ever blew it once. He was fully God and fully man. He died on the cross for our sins so that you don't have to earn God's love for yourself. That's the truth. That's the gospel. And when his close followers asked him questions, we get to learn from what Jesus answered. And this is what I know that he said. The word forgiveness came up. One of his close followers in Matthew chapter 18 asks a fantastic question. He says, Jesus, how often do I have to forgive people? 70 times. 70 is a big number. 70 is a lot. 70 means that your annoying little sibling, and don't look at them even if they're in the room because that's rude and you're at church. But it means that if it is your annoying younger sibling or your annoying older sibling or your stepdad that gets on your nerves or the kid in class who thinks he's funny but really isn't, it means that if you forgave him or her once a week for an entire year, you still would not eat up the 70 times that Peter is asking about. So in Matthew 18, Jesus gives a fantastic answer. He says in verse 22 of Matthew 18, no, not 7 times, not 70 times, but 70 times 7. For you math nerds in the house, how many is that? 490, that's right. Which it means this. It means it is so many times that you will stop keeping track, because the average person is not going to keep track of that many times. You're just not. And then Jesus proceeds to do something that really great teachers do. He shares a story. He tells a story about a really, really, really rich king, and he tells a story about a guy who owes him a lot of money. He says this, therefore the kingdom of heaven can be compared to a king who decided to bring his accounts up to date with servants who had borrowed money from him. Meaning that there were a lot of people that owed him a lot of money. In the process, one of his debtors, that's one of the people that owed him money, was brought who owed him millions of dollars. That's the modern day reference of that much money. He couldn't pay, so his master ordered that he be sold along with his wife, his children, and everything he owned to pay the debt. The same way that in our culture today, if an adult man and adult women are not great with money and they have to pay money back to people that they owe, they can have to make decisions that the whole family pays for. They can lose their house, they can lose a car, they can have to sell stuff in order to pay people back. And if you've never had to live that way before, I'm really, really glad for you. Some of us have had to do that before. In my family growing up, that happened to us. And I'm telling you, it is really, really hard, and it is very real. Verse 26, but the man fell down before his master and begged him, please be patient with me, and I will pay it all. Which is probably him being desperate, because if he literally owes millions of dollars, there is zero way he's ever paying all this back. But look at what happens. Look what the king does. The man fell down, he begged him, said, give me more time. And then in verse 27 of Matthew 18, then his master was filled with pity for him. It says he felt bad for him and released him and forgave him his debt. That sounds pretty awesome. That's a good king. I want that king. That's the response I want. Like, let me give you an example. So like, we have a bunch of pastors here on staff at Preston Trail. Across the hall that oversees all of our kids area, that's Pastor Allison. How many of you know who Pastor Allison is? She's just like pretty and awesome and bubbly and smart. She's great. If you don't know Pastor Allison, you should get to know her. But anyway, she had just moved into this brand new office, and I had a friend bring me like a big, huge, full cup of coffee. And it was from one of those coffee places that has kind of funky lids. Have you ever gotten coffee from a place that has like a funky lid? And it's like a lid where it's like, may God save your soul and protect you and keep you, and that whole deal. Anyway, so I walked into her office, and I'd never gotten coffee from this place before, and I sat it down. And then when I went to pick it up, have you ever done the thing where the lid comes off and you squeeze it? all over her brand new office, all over a chair, all over the footstool for the chair, all over the carpet. Everything smelled gloriously like coffee. She could have made fun of me. She could have gotten mad at me, but she didn't. She didn't do any of those things. I mean, I was real sorry. I went and got stuff. I cleaned it all up. I apologized like 100 times. And she has never brought it up again. She's never made fun of me about it. She completely let it go. She didn't ever hold it over my head, which was really, really awesome. That's what this king did for that guy. But here's what's interesting about what that guy does next in the story. It says he leaves the king's presence, he's walking down the road, and he sees somebody that owes him like $1,000. Let's read about it. And so he's walking along, and he sees somebody who owes him some money. And this is what he says. He says he grabs the guy. It says a few $1,000s. It says he grabs him by the throat and demands instant payment. Some of the other people that were around see it happen, and they pass word to the king. The king immediately sends for this guy. Like, I don't know if you've ever been at school before, and then you hear the announcement. Everybody said, Pastor Colby, down to the principal's office. Pastor Colby, go to the principal's office. That is like the worst words to hear, is your name and the words principal office in the same sentence. How many of you ever had that happen to you before? Just be honest, it's church, it's good. Okay, I had it happen too. So anyway, so this guy comes back into him, and the king asks this cat a super important question. He says, look, I forgave you. I let it go. I gave you the chance to start over again. And then he asks, this is huge, listen to this. Shouldn't you have mercy on your fellow servant, just as I had mercy on you? Those are some big words. Shouldn't you have treated this other person the way I treated you? And see, here's the thing. That's how God wants to treat you. You might have done something incredibly jerkish. You might have done something to lose a friend because of something rude and awful that you said. You might have stolen something from someone. You might have lost someone's trust. You might have lost respect from someone you really care about because you did something really selfish or rude. But here's the thing I'm going to tell you. Even if you did something like that, God says you're worth being forgiven. I want you to hear that for a minute. Whatever mistake you've made, God says you are worth being forgiven. The same way it might have been something in your control or out of your control. Maybe you missed a shot at the end of a game that your teammates are telling you cost them the game. Maybe you forgot something really important and you let somebody down. Maybe you just did something really rude without thinking about it because you're in a hurry or in a bad mood. And you need to be forgiven. And if that's where you're at, I want to encourage you to take a moment and remember you're worth being forgiven. Because here's something that I want you to know. You and me want to be people who are forgiven and forgiving. Remember, Jesus says it very, very clearly. He says, we are told to forgive often. One of the things that I remember being told early is, part of being a good Christian, part of being a good person is that I'm supposed to forgive people. Well, I used to think they were almost like magic words. Like if I just told somebody that I forgave them, that was it. You have to keep reminding yourself you've forgiven someone. Because if someone's made you angry, like I did with that Austin Walker guy, this guy was a jerk to me. I made a little bit of a joke about it, but he was bullying me. And actually, he didn't use the word jerk. He used a stronger word than that, but I'm not allowed to say it. That's actually what he called me in front of everybody in the class, every day, weeks on end. And I'll be honest with you, even when I chose to forgive him, when I would see him walk by, these feelings would well up within me like, that guy's the jerk. And I'd have to remind myself, no, I forgive him. Sometimes we have to remember that we're told to forgive often. We're also told that we are forgiven. In Romans 5:8, we are reminded that God himself sent Jesus to die on the cross for us, to pay the price for our lives, that our lives are worth the blood of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the most perfect person to ever walk the earth. That's what your life is worth. That means that you are worth being forgiven. But here's the other side of that. It also means that they're worthy of being forgiven too. Here's some things that I want you to know about forgiveness. Forgiveness makes you better. When you decide to walk around not forgiving people, it actually turns you into a jerk. It makes you bitter, it makes you mean. It fills your hands with grudges and your heart with hate. It fills your feet with fear and your mind full of dark thoughts. Forgiveness is better for you. Forgiveness makes you better. Forgiveness makes us better. There is no way we can have a relationship with each other if we don't have forgiveness between each other. There is no way we can do it. Your mom or dad are going to make you mad. That's a fact. But here's the other side of that. You actually drive your parents crazy and you're gonna make them mad. But we have to forgive each other. We have to. Because if we don't, it turns us into a them, which means we're not together anymore. So here's what I want you to be thinking about. I want you to own your own forgiveness. And this is where I want you to own for your own forgiveness. First place I want you to own your own forgiveness is with yourself. Some of you need to forgive yourself of things that you've caused yourself or done to yourself. You need to own your own forgiveness by forgiving yourself. And that's a big step. What do you keep kicking yourself for? What do you keep beating yourself up for? What mistake that you made do you keep reminding yourself of? You need to forgive yourself and let it go. What bad choice do you keep reminding yourself of? That's not who you are. It was something stupid you did, but it's not who you are. Part of growing up and being treated more maturely, my friend, is that you learn from your mistakes. You don't allow your mistakes to become you. Next is you own your forgiveness from others. I'm gonna be super real for a minute. Some of you, when you leave here tonight, you need to walk up to a family member, or you need to reach out and text, call a friend, or walk up to a friend tomorrow morning if you don't have a phone, and you need to ask someone for forgiveness in your life. There is someone and you know who they are. And by the way, the reason I know that about you is because every single one of us in this room, if we're very honest with ourselves, have someone we need to walk up to and ask for forgiveness from. Every single one of us. That's just honest. And so I want you to think about that, and even take a moment now. Think about who that person is. Because not only do you have to forgive yourself and own that, but you have to own asking someone else for forgiveness. And here's the other one. You need to ask God for forgiveness. Let me give you a little life hack. Part of being a follower of Jesus is a relationship, and part of being a relationship is conversation. Part of having a conversation is that you are asking God for forgiveness at different times. I have to do it every day. I'm your pastor, and I do it every day. And trust me, I'm just as jacked up as you are. I just happen to get to be here a lot more than you are. Next, you have to own your forgiveness for others. There are people you have to choose to forgive, and this is so tough, y'all. This is so tough. But you and me, we have to choose to forgive someone even if they don't ask for it. For me, I'll be honest with you, when I was in middle school, I had so much anger toward my biological father that it was ugly. I held him responsible for things he didn't even know about. Because he wasn't like my friend's dad. Because he divorced my mom. Because we didn't have a typical relationship. Because. You know, and I had to learn that, and it took me too long. So if you're packing unforgiveness towards somebody, a parent, a friend, family member, choose to make it a habit to forgive. Here are my last thoughts. Forgiveness helps you forgive. And that might sound a little silly, but when you understand that you're forgiven and you choose to be both forgiven and forgiving, it helps you to continue to forgive. Forgiveness helps you forgive. Forgiveness is a choice, not a feeling. My gosh, I wish someone had told me this when I was your age. Forgiveness is a choice, not a feeling. Doesn't mean you just forgive because you feel like it. You forgive because it's the right thing to do and because you are not an ugly person. That's not who you are. So don't make ugly choices. Forgiveness is a habit, not a moment. It's not one moment where you forgive someone. It's a habit. When those feelings come up again, you remind your feelings, I forgave them. I continue to forgive them. Forgiveness keeps going. Forgiveness is more than sorry. It's a strategy that people can see. See, the little kid in you is going to want to think that forgiveness is the same as sorry, and it's not. Forgiveness is a strategy people can see. Forgiveness is locking eyes with someone and say, I forgive you. I choose to let this go. Forgiveness is locking eyes with someone and say, I am so sorry. I did this to you and I shouldn't have. Will you please forgive me? And it's a big deal. Forgiveness is more than sorry, it's a strategy. And it's hard. But the reason that I lay this stuff on you is because I don't want you to be the typical middle school kid. I want you to be someone who commands respect and the right kind of attention because I believe in you and I want you to be your best. Let's pray because we need a lot of help with forgiveness. Lord, thank you so much that you care for us and believe in us. Thank you that you have forgiven us and that we can choose to walk a forgiven and forgiving life. I pray that you would help us to do that well. I pray that you would help remind us that you didn't mean us to hold on to grudges or to carry hatred in our hearts. I pray that you would remind us that when the feelings pop up, that our choice is the reminder that we forgive. And whoever that person is that we need to talk to ask for forgiveness, Lord, would you remind us that we have the courage? We just got to take the steps forward and do it. And would you help us to be forgiving people who have forgiving homes? In your name, amen.